Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm super excited about today's guest. Frankly, I'm super excited to be back with you. As many of our viewers know, I was out sick last week. And then the 2 weeks prior to that, we had guests who were out ill. And the weeks before that were the holidays. So it's been a very long time since I've been here with you online, and I'm excited to be back. But I am doubly excited to be with the guests I have today. As you know, we have had a few returning guests in the almost 200 episodes of the show, but only a few. You have to really nail it the first time through to get a second invitation on the show. And the person I'm going to bring up is one of the most dynamic young people. I say young people. She's a mother now and a professional and quite accomplished. But compared to this old gray beard, she's young. But she's just one of my favorite people in Ponchatoula. She's done so much to promote our city. She comes from a great family. She's a fantastic mother and wife and much more. And now she works to promote Southeastern University in Hammond. So with no further ado, I welcome to the show Faith Allen Peterson. Faith, welcome back.
Hi. Wow, that was quite the introduction. I feel like I have a lot to live up to now.
Well, you deserve it. You're a big shot, and it's fun to watch a rising star rise. You're
Oh,
somebody I really admire. You got, your master's degree at a very young age. You took on a tall task, working for the city, rejuvenating downtown, did a fantastic job. And then you got the call, the knock, so to speak, from your alma mater, and Southeastern asked you to come home. So, before we dig into what you're doing today and your career and all that, let's just backtrack a little bit and tell us a little bit about yourself.
yeah. So, like you said, I'm from Ponchatoula. I was born and raised here. I'm a proud graduate from St. Joseph. And then I went to Ponchatoula High School, and I had a wonderful experience at both of those places, and then went on to Southeastern. I bought a house in Ponchatoula. I don't live quite in city limits. I'm just kind of like literally over the interstate, right off one of the service
Yeah.
roads there. But
Well, that's Ponchatoula. The thing about it is we
yeah,
have a very tiny city limits, as you know well. There's only 7 or 8,000 people living in that. But the community of Ponchatoula, and by that I always use this as the bellwether test. Are you wearing that green hat with a P on Friday nights, or the purple one with an H, or some other one? And you are squarely in Green Wave territory. So,
oh yeah. You
yeah,
know what's
unapologetic
funny?
Ponchatoula.
I, I actually met somebody the other day at Southeastern, and they were talking about Hammond High, and I said, "Ooh, we're supposed to be enemies." He's like, "Oh, are we?" I said, "Yes," and he's like, "I don't know if we're the same enemies as we used to be." He was a little bit older than me, and he's like, "I don't know if you remember the days that I had," and he was telling me stories. He said, "Oh no, we weren't that maybe
Oh, yeah.
competitive."
It
back
was
in the
so bad.
day.
It was like criminal activity level. Every
That's
year
pretty
our
much what he said.
cheerleaders would go up there and vandalize their school, and they'd come down our way and worse. And my dad has a classic story. My father was quarterback at PHS in 1960 or 1959. Very good team, but sadly they tied him in 2 years in a row. Him and both squads were loaded. My dad's predecessor at quarterback was played for LSU with Dwight Robinson, one of the greatest players we ever had in the school, and Hammond High had Ronnie Bankston, whose brother played in the NFL and himself was a fantastic player before becoming a parish councilman all those years later. And but Dad loves to tell the story of running a sweep to the side, and Ronnie Bankston smacks him and crushes him into the track that surrounded the field at the Hammond High field. And he looks up with stars in his eyes, all discombobulated, and he sees his beautiful girlfriend, who was a cheerleader for Hammond, but she's not cheering to pick him up or helping. She's like, "Yeah, die down there." It was like even your girlfriend rooted against you on Friday night if you were on the wrong side of the rivalry. So
Mhm.
it's cool that you got to kind of bring that back talking to this fellow.
Oh
What did
yeah.
it think about where it's come from when he was there to what it's like now?
Yeah, it's fun. I think that's something that's really special about Ponchatoula and a lot of our communities here, and Southeastern too, is that we're really proud of where we come from. And I think that might just be a general Louisiana thing. I have people who've moved away that I've met in college, and they're like, I could never go back to Louisiana. And now they're like, man, I wish I could come back to Louisiana. I said, never say never. I mean, I think it's something really just special. I think people here just have a lot of pride in what they
Yeah.
do and where they're from, and I'm really proud to be from Ponchatoula. I'm eventually supposed to be getting some family property. I hope my Uncle
Neat.
Virgil's not watching. He'll get on my case. He wants me to start building a house. It's not far from him. It's down the road from my parents.
Yeah,
And he asked me every day, "Have you started yet?" And I said, "No, Uncle Virgil, I haven't." But we're getting some property that was kind of passed down to me from my
that's
grandmother and my
exciting.
dad,
Yeah,
and so it's again, it's out of city limits, but it's still in that Ponchatoula family. So I'm
right.
hoping to plant roots here. That's my goal. I love bringing my little girl. You mentioned I am a mom.
Uh-huh.
We come to the parks in Ponchatoula, some of the parks that I got to work on a little bit in my time
Oh,
here in
cool.
Ponchatoula,
Yeah,
which is
right.
really cool. We got to, right before I left, we were doing some work on the park. So
Hmm.
I had a little bit of a hand at some of the equipment that was picked for certain parks. And so she was playing one of the pieces of equipment that I actually picked out, which was really
Yeah.
cool. Kind of a full circle moment. But yeah, I love it
I,
here.
I bet that's extra special when you kind of help pick something out or help design it. And we have great parks here, and
Mhm.
the mayors have done a great job developing those parks, maintaining those parks, keeping them up to shape. And what I love is we have so many great parks, not just here in Ponchatoula, but in our area. My little
Mhm.
boys, are now soon to be 8 and 10. They're only
Wow.
7 and 9 for a few more weeks. We've got a birthday party coming up here in a couple weeks, and they're only 5 days apart.
Oh,
But
wow.
I remember one of our most fun days was we said, let's see how many parks we can hit in one day. And we hit 10 local parks and
Wow.
playgrounds without even leaving the Ponchatoula Hammond area. So
Wow.
we hit all over Ponchatoula. We were in a golf cart, and from Tasker Park to Memorial Park to Pine Park to Kiwanis Park, all those in
Mhm.
Pard. We didn't take the golf cart to Pard, but and then we just whipped from Pard to Hard up in Hammond to Chapapilla and into the city. So it's really neat. Within like a 5-6 mile
Mhm.
radius, you've got somewhere in the ballpark of a dozen parks, and not many communities can boast that. So,
Yeah.
for the viewers here, many of you will remember Faith from her first interview. Those that are just getting to know her now know that there is a full fledged, what I would call a deep dive interview with Faith, where she was kind enough to tell us all about her childhood growing up in Ponchatoula, from the St. Joseph days to the PHS days to finding young love. She mentioned how she's a mom now and a wife, and they're building a house. We got to hear about how they became a couple in the first place. So if you're interested in any of that, check it out on YouTube. You can just Google Ponchatoula Live and in Faith's name, and you will be able to find her and explore that interview. Today, I've promised I'd get her back to that young girl, so she can mama it up in a bit. So we're going to kind of skip over some of our usual deep dive background and get into the kind of what you're up to now. So we've been alluding to your time with the city of Ponchatoula.
Mhm.
You got this really big job. Tell us first, like how it came about. Like, how did you get the call to get back to Southeastern, and then
Mhm.
where did that call come from? What do they want you to do, and how's it going?
Yeah. So, I wasn't. I guess I shouldn't say I wasn't looking because I did put feelers out. There's always opportunities, that you need to take on yourself, and so, um, I worked with the city almost 4 years. I didn't even realize it had actually been almost 4 years till some recent paperwork came up. I'm like, oh wow, that was almost 4 years.
That's like a
And
full presidential term. That's impressive,
basically, yeah.
especially for a first job.
Yeah. So I'd kind of seen some things opening up at Southeastern, and I am a two-time grad, and I just love Southeastern. Outside of like my family, my child, my friends, like if we're taking that out, loves in my life, I love where I'm from. I love where I went to school. Like I the best time of my life was at Southeastern. Like again, outside of family and
Sure.
friends and
Yeah.
stuff. And I remember Mayor Zabby and I actually went to a chamber luncheon on campus in the ballroom,
Mhm.
and he's like, why don't we ride through Friendship Circle? I said, yeah, I'd love to ride through Friendship Circle. And so we rode through, and I was just talking with him because he's a Southeastern grad as well. And so we were just talking. I'm like, I just love this place. And we were just telling stories. And so, this opportunity came up, and I went in for an interview. I'm in a different position actually now, but I interviewed for the assistant director of the alumni
Mhm.
office. And a friend of mine was in a position in the alumni office, and she knew that I loved Southeastern, and so she approached me. She's like, "Hey, this position is open if you're interested." So I applied. I've been using this phrase a lot lately. I guess it's throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. I just was like, you know what? Let me just take a chance. Let me just
Yeah.
see. And if it's not meant to be, or I don't enjoy it, I don't like how the interview goes, whatever.
Mhm.
I'm happy where I'm at. Like I don't need anything else. I'm really happy where I'm at, but I just feel like I need to take a chance on this. And really the person told me about it, and I was like, you know what? I'm happy where I'm at. I don't need to. And then she saw me again. And then she saw me again, and she's like, I really think we should apply. And I'm like, all right, I guess this is a sign, let me just see. And so I did. I think probably the last weekend this application was open, if I'm being completely honest, because I was happy, and I wasn't looking. And
Yeah, I
so
mean, it sounds like there's some internal conflict there because you deeply appreciate what you have,
I did.
and
I
yet
did.
the call of something bigger,
Yeah, it was
be
a
there.
call.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's tough.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
I'm
no
really
matter where you are in your career, that's a difficult crossroads to be at because
it
it's the bird in the hand versus perhaps two in the bush, and the
Yeah.
uncertainty, is daunting.
Right. And it was just a chance. And so I went in for the interview, and I really liked what I had heard. And it was a lot of similar things that I had been doing already with like event planning and working with people and a board, kind of what I did here. And so I was really excited, and I was really like, oh, I kind of want to get a call back. I kind of want to see what they have to say. And so it may have been a day or two, which things in higher ed and in general, things kind of work a little bit slower in hiring. And I got the call with a job offer within about 2 days of the interview, which is pretty
Oh
unheard
wow.
of in that space.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I guess
They
this is
wanted you
a
bad,
sign.
girl. That's what that
Yeah.
is, man.
Yeah. So I'm like,
Good for
this is
you.
a sign. And I remember I still lived at home because I had moved back
Mhm.
home in grad school. And I went home, and I told my parents, and I started crying when I told them, and I was really excited, and they were really excited for me. And so it just kind of
Yeah.
seemed like things were just kind of lining up. And I had a conversation with Mayor Zavia, and him and I are just very close. I admire him so much. I went and had lunch with them before I announced my
Mhm.
pregnancy publicly. I had lunch with them to tell them in person because I adore them so very
Yeah,
much.
very close. Yeah.
They are family to me, and so I told him about the opportunity and what I was thinking, and he said, that day in Friendship Circle, I knew this is where I'd lose you to. And he said, if you were to ever leave me in Ponchatoula, it would be for Southeastern. And I knew it that day. He's like, you got to take this chance. And he was so supportive. And, he's like, there's more growth for you there. And, this is a great opportunity. You love Southeastern. I mean, it was hard. It was a really hard decision. Again, I wasn't unhappy.
Right.
I was like breaking up. It was like a breakup. I kind of mourned it a little
Right.
bit.
Well,
And
I
even
bet,
though,
and that's hard, but good for him for putting your interest
oh,
first because
yes.
mayors don't stay there forever. And clearly, he was on his last term at that point and about to leave. And Wesley's doing a great job, but he'd probably be the first to tell you he doesn't plan to be there until you're going to retire. So
Yeah, it was
you
great.
can't let those personal ties hold you back when something that fits better
Yeah.
comes along. I want to share something, folks. So we're talking with Faith here, and I mentioned our prior episode, and our producer Daniel and Dennis was kind enough to put a link to it here in the comments to the Facebook event here. So as you can see, there's a link there, or as I said, you could go on YouTube and just basically search for Faith Allen Peterson Ponchatoula Live, and you'll get her first video. Faith, thank you for bringing this, to our attention and how this came about. And I can tell in your recount of the story how much you love the city of Ponchatoula and enjoyed working there. In addition to the personal relationship you mentioned, and how much this lifelong home of yours, because you talked about the home you grew up with, and we're still even living in when you got the Southeastern job, to this house that you're planning to build, and family property the whole time, the Allen family that's been here for centuries practically. You'll be there in touch with that family, and it's a neat story. But what I love about Southeastern is And I didn't have the benefit of going there. You know, my mama went there, my brother went there, my wife went there, and my two boys go to speech there now. So we're there all the time. But I graduated from other universities. But I'll tell you a story that you've heard off air, but I think it's a cute one and indicative of what this place means to people in our community. So, you know, my family is big time into education. You know, my mom's got a master's degree. All of my brothers either have a doctoral or master's degree level education, and my parents always stress that. And so my wife and I try to do the same. And so wherever we go in the world, and we're blessed to travel a lot, we try to visit the local university and show our kids and just check it out. And so, you know, when we're in New Orleans, I show them my alma mater of Tulane. When we're in Baton Rouge, we show them where mom and dad went to grad school at LSU. We've been all over, from Oxford in England to the Sorbonne in Paris to, you know, you name it. And it doesn't matter where we go. When we ask the kids, well, where do you want to go to school? And I thought for sure they'd want to go to Oxford because we took them to where they filmed Harry Potter and they
Ooh,
love those movies.
yeah.
But without any hesitation, they're always like, nope, Dad, we're Southeastern Lions. We want to go back to Hammond, Louisiana and go to Southeastern. And you mentioned Friendship Circle. Their little building where they do speech and speech
Yeah.
making summers is right across the way. And I just think that's so cool, man. Not even all the hundreds of years of tradition and billions of dollars of an Oxford or a Stanford or whatever can pull them away. So when I mention a story like that to you, I mean, how do you feel? Is that something that you find common in the community where people just love this place and want to
They
be
do. We have so much pride in our university, and literally the best time of my life was when I was in school. And I think too, it's what you give and what Southeastern can give back to you. We talked a lot about that when I was in my sorority. I'm a Phi Mu alum, and it's what you give into Phi Mu, she will give back to you. And I think that's a lot of what Southeastern is that she gives so much and you love so much and you do so much. And I mean, I was incredibly involved in my time at Southeastern. I was obviously Greek. I did a lot of student work. I was a student leader on campus. And so I was just very involved. And you just see there's just something different when you come onto campus, what you feel. And I think that's what makes it special. It's this feeling that you get. And I actually have a new position now. So I was in the alumni office. Now I'm
Yeah,
in
tell us
foundation.
about that. What's your new job?
Yeah. So I'm in foundation, which is our fundraising office.
Mhm.
So I plan different fundraising initiatives. Like one of ours, which you were a big supporter of, is Giving Day. So we raised over $500,000 for Giving Day this year. So it's a
Yeah, that's a
24-hour
wonderful tradition. Yeah.
giving initiative. Over 500,000 is incredible. That's a goal that my previous vice president, we have a new vice president in our office. She threw that number out at a meeting, and I said, "Ooh, it's a really big number. It's a lot of zeros." The year before, we had raised a little over 400. I can't remember the exact number, but I'm like, can we just beat last year's by like a couple thousand? Like, why do we have to do 500?
Yeah,
But we
how about
did.
like a 5 or 10% goal, increase? But she wasn't
Yeah.
down with that. She was shooting for the stars.
Yeah, and I remember we broke it. It was actually one of our board members and alumni that I'd worked with a lot in my time in alumni, Mr. Scott Adams. He is actually the guy who sent us over the edge by $25. He had
Oh,
already given to Given Day, but we were about $25 short. And so we're all sitting at the screen just waiting because every time we hit a $10,000 mark, confetti goes off. So we had been watching the confetti all
mhm.
day, and all of a sudden we hit the 500, and you could hear screams through the office. And Wendy Lauderdale, our outgoing vice president, ran down the hallway. She gave me a hug. She's like, "We did it! You did it!" But it's special. I get to plan Chef's Evening, which I was actually just in downtown handing out flyers for to some of my old business owners, which I said, I feel like I'm back at work here because this is what I used to do like 3 years ago. It was funny. They're like, "Do you work here again?" I said, "No, I'm here for my other job." But it's funny.
You're back
But
making the rounds. That's cool.
yeah, back making my rounds. But I want to share a story that actually
Mhm.
maybe a little kind of similar to yours, just how special Southeastern is. So we have a little bit of a rivalry, as we mentioned earlier. We love rivalries here
Yeah.
with Nichols. So we do the River Bell Classic with them every year, which is either they come to us for a Thursday night football game or we go to them. We won this year. We beat the Lions.
Rub it in a little
Line
bit. Take that, Colonels.
up. But we did. It was a really good game. It's always a really good game. And so Tangi Tourism, they'll partner with the state and their Louisiana tourism office for that area. They come here, they do a big tailgate. It's like kind of during business hours, so a lot of the faculty and staff will go enjoy the tailgate. It's a unique environment on a Thursday.
Right.
And so I went over, I was talking to some of our alums, and I was at the tailgate, and there's people walking around with red shirts everywhere. And I tried to make a point to talk to people, say, hi, welcome to our campus. We're so happy to have you here. And I'm like, hey, if y'all need anything, let us know. Like, we're rivals, but I mean, at the end of the day, we're all here just to support the teams and have a good time. And one of the parents at our tailgate, because ours is the alumni tailgate and it's a partnership, there's red and green under the tent, was asking me, like, where do I go to get my tickets? I'm a visitor, as we were talking. And he said, thank you so much. He's like, since the moment we have walked onto this campus, we have felt so welcomed. We have felt so special. Your campus is beautiful. He's like, my kid back here is wanting to go here now. Like, my youngest child wants to enroll here. I said, well,
Yeah.
I'm not sorry about that. We would love to have them in your family. But I mean, it just kind of brought into
Yeah.
perspective, not a me thing, but a Southeastern thing.
Yeah, no,
That,
it's a special place. It's
yeah.
beautiful and it's got a rich history, and it's exciting to see where you and your colleagues are taking it, because you're putting that $500,000 to good use. Like I
Yes.
remember one year, maybe the first year we got involved with Giving Day. We got involved through the point of the communication and science program for
Mm-hmm.
speech therapy and whatnot, and they were taking these students and graduate students that are studying speech therapy to bring speech therapy services to kids in the Caribbean on islands where they've never been a speech therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And it just makes such an impact that you're able to do things like that. And there are these kids way off in the Caribbean that never heard of us and we never heard of. And only through something like Southeastern, can that come together. And it's just so exciting. And that's one of a million great things that the university's doing. And what I love, there's such a rich kind of strong alumni network. I'll give you an example. So you're talking about your days at alumni, and of course, one of the biggest things y'all do is have an alumnus of the year. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
was having lunch today with the current alumnus of the year, District Attorney Scott Perilou,
Mm-hmm.
and with no idea on my mind that we'd be talking about this later. We're just talking law stuff, right? And we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about federal judges, and you know, and it comes around, and it's like within 3 minutes, we're talking about, federal judge Carl Barbier, who was alumnus of the year maybe
Yep.
3 or 4 years ago. And then and again, not even thinking about the Southeastern connection. Then we talk about Judge Brady, who was a federal judge in Baton Rouge, who sadly passed away, was a great man. Again, another former Southeastern alumnus of the year. His son coached track here. I mean, it's just there's such a rich tapestry of connections here. And when these guys go out into the world, whether it's a local office like district attorney or a big shot deal where only the president of the United States can area proud, and they're representing us well. So I guess I just want to say keep up the good work. You're doing God's work there. And and when you think about the numbers with the size of this university, what are we, like 14, 15,000 students? How big is Southeastern now?
Yeah, that
Somewhere in there.
it feels like it grows like by the minute,
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean, but my point is, like, most of the stories are kind of unsung heroes. We're talking about high profile guys here, but there are people at every level, making banks and private institutions stronger because of the education they got there,
Mm-hmm.
making educational institutions stronger because, I know, for example, I teach part time at LSU Law School, and I've just seen a ton of stuff, awesome students that I taught that came from Southeastern. You
Mm-hmm.
know, other professors, other classmates, just outstanding people. So from the little part of the world I see, which is the law, y'all are
Mm-hmm.
getting it done, and should be
Thank
really
you.
proud of that.
Well, I want to say too, I mean, my husband, he's a project manager at Southland Steel Fabricators in Greensburg, and he wouldn't have that position if it hadn't been for Southeastern. And anytime I meet somebody in the industrial technology world at Southeastern, I tell them that. I say, because of the job fair that y'all did in partnership with Career Services, so shout out to Career Services, Craig Marinello and his team. They're incredible. Because of the work that Career Services and this college did, he turned in his resume at a career fair. Nothing happened with it. About 4 or 5 months later, Southland Steel called. They still had his resume, and he's been there over 7 years now and has
That's
rose
amazing.
from an assistant position to a leadership position. And I mean, done wonders for our family, for himself, for his company, and it's because of Southeastern. And I tell people, like, powerful things happen everywhere. I know that, but powerful things are happening here. And I mean, that's just one little thing, like you said. I mean, there are so many amazing things that happen on campus, amazing alums. Like, we just had the Robin Roberts Broadcast Media Center open, and we
Yes.
had Robin in town, which I was able to be a part of that. That was just amazing. You
That's
see the
such a great
confetti.
example. My
Yeah.
kids and I and my wife, we're watching, we do family movie night every Saturday night. We watch a kids
Okay.
movie together. The last week was the Lego movie Ninjago. And guess
Okay.
what? Robin Roberts is in that movie. So it's like we're watching Southeastern on Saturday night on Netflix or whatever it was.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so cool. She's taking the brand global.
She
Um,
really has. I mean, she came in and I'm saying we're watching the confetti go off, which is very exciting, but I was in charge of the confetti cannon. So the whole time I'm like, please go off. The ribbon was going. I'm like, ribbon, please cut. But, you're just watching this confetti go with someone who is incredible as Robin. Everything that she has done for the university on the national, the global scale, everything that she has done, and you're like, I'm connected to that. I'm a small part of this, and just seeing the impact and the space. If you have not, if you're listening, if you have not been to that space, reach out to the College of Arts and Humanities and Social Sciences and see if you can get a tour, or I don't know, maybe the admissions office. Somebody, you can reach out to me and I can try to help. I mean, the space is beautiful, and the work that we're going to be able to do with future students because of her and the work that she did. And we had money come in from, different donors from different buildings, the things that people are doing on campus, not just in that space, but across this campus, is just amazing. Looking at the Robin Roberts space, I said, this makes me want to be a student again. Like, how
yeah,
do I
right.
do this
Yeah.
again? Like, minus the homework, I don't
Yeah.
need that, but how do I do, and that is what it's all
No,
about,
the,
is
the campus all over is
generations.
the campus has improved so much from say when I was a kid. And we used to go up there and play soccer in one field or play tennis on the courts. And now there are all these beautiful modern buildings up there, and of course the same old beautiful old oak trees, and it's wonderful. So tell us a little bit, because I promised I'd get you out of here soon so you can go see your baby girl.
Yeah.
Tell us about what's going on these days with the foundation, how we can help, things like that.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have a new vice president. She is our interim vice president. Her name is Melaine Sharp. So Wendy Lauderdale is kind of closing out her time now. She's, served the university well. I mean, my gosh, the legacy she is leaving behind, especially
Yeah, she was
now,
fantastic.
the Robin Roberts Project was kind of that big final culmination of, her career. But Melaine is actually our alumni director. So I actually worked under Melaine when I was in alumni, and then I
Oh, cool.
left, and now I'm like, are you following me? So now she's our new vice president. And
Mhm.
so one thing I can ask is just support us, support her. She's new in this position, but she is dynamic. She's not from Ponchatoula, Parker, but she is also a young, dynamic
Well,
leader.
but
Um,
we've had a few guests that aren't from here and don't live here actually. But what we've decided with this show is if you're supporting the area, we
yeah.
love you here on Ponchatoula Live.
Well,
So,
good.
if,
Well,
for example, our parish president is not a Ponchatoula guy;
yeah,
he's a southeastern guy. But
yes,
we had him on because he serves Ponchatoula. So
does.
we've
Yeah.
expanded our scope a little. I'd always
Okay.
prefer a
Well,
homegrown, person like you to a to somebody who's but we welcome them all here now. So
oh, well, good. Well,
you can
good.
bring her
Well,
into the
she's
fold.
great. She's also a two-time Southeastern grad, and so she's learning the ropes. I think going to bring some exciting energy. Big shoes to fill, obviously, but I think she's up for the challenge. She's great. So just support her. If you're one of our alums or a community member that supports Southeastern, support her in her new role in our office. We're a lot of new faces in our office, but highly qualified. And so, we're kind of learning the ropes on this side of things with Southeastern and some of the programs that we do, but we have a lot of experience and a lot of just fun and just good work that we're doing. So just continue to support us. And for me, my stuff, as I mentioned earlier, I was kind of hitting the streets in downtown again with my papers. I'm like, I really feel like I'm back at work here. But Chef's
This
Evening
was for
is coming
Chef's
up.
Evening, right?
Yeah, so Chefs, it's our 41st anniversary of Chefs, so we celebrated our 40th, and it was also our 100th year anniversary of the university last year, so that was
Wow.
a big year for all of us. But yeah, we're planning that, so we're inviting restaurants, bars, caterers, bakeries to participate. You can buy tickets to attend if you're a business listening and you're maybe looking for a sponsorship opportunity. We have several different levels of giving to just get involved. We have a lot of new businesses wanting to get involved this year. We have some Ponchatoula businesses getting involved with some of our restaurant space, and so that's exciting. I love seeing my Ponchatoula people. I love seeing anybody there, obviously,
Yeah.
but I do get a little pride. I'm like, it's my Ponchatoula people right
Yeah,
there.
that's your peeps.
You
Well, look,
know?
we've got a link here,
Oh,
as
I
you
see
can
it.
see. Danny's posted it. It's in the notes and in the comments section below here. So if anyone's interested in getting involved, you can just point and click. And
It's a fun event.
yeah,
It's
it's fantastic.
fun.
The food's always been great, and
Yeah.
it's fun, and obviously the money's going to a good cause.
Yeah, it goes towards our students and scholarships. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a good thing to get a part of.
Well, Faith, I know you're super busy and you've done this before, so you didn't have to say yes and come back, but we're grateful that you did because I've been wanting to hear more about what you're doing for the university.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for doing this. It's a fantastic pursuit you have here. Southeastern is an economic cornerstone, a cultural cornerstone. There's just so much good that comes out of that university, whether you're watching a show at the Columbia Theater or watching a football game in Strawberry Stadium or just walking Friendship Circle, getting your exercise, whatever. There's just so much great that happens there, in addition to what we think of first, which is this
Yeah.
world-class education people can get. So thank you for that. To our viewers and our listeners that stuck with us the full half hour, thank you all. Ponchatoula Live will be back. We missed a lot of time, but we're back on schedule, so we'll be back next week. And one final reminder, if you've liked what you've seen out of Faith today, we had just as much and more from her first interview, so check it out. So with that being said, thank you all, and we'll see you next week. Y'all take care.